Okay, it's time to talk about Synchronic. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor, and I'll be your host as we go through all the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out our introduction video. There's a link to it in the description below. It'll give you a pretty good idea of what we do at the Horror Movie Syllabus. In short, we look at a particular subgenre of horror and then pick 3 movies from that subgenre to explore. But today is our Is It Syllabus-Worthy series, where we actually look at a movie that was recommended by you guys, where I watch a movie that I haven't seen before that you guys recommended, and then I tell you guys what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and ultimately whether or not it's worthy of being on the Horror Movie Syllabus. The movie that we're looking at today is a movie called Synchronic. And Synchronic was recommended by 2 of you, specifically Josh, aka the Movie Timelines guy, and good friend of the channel, Spencer. Both of you guys recommended this movie to me in different videos. Josh in the horror romance video, and interestingly enough, and then Spencer when we talked about Mind Games and whether or not that movie was syllabus worthy. Now, it's probably worth noting that both of you recommend this movie kind of loosely. I mean, Josh, it wasn't even really a recommendation. We were talking about a different movie, and Josh mentioned this movie and discussing that movie, and we'll get into that a little bit more as the video goes on. Whereas Spencer actually did a recommendation, but it was kind of a soft recommendation. So my expectations should have been managed going into this, but they weren't. I actually had high expectations for this going into it, and I'll explain why when we get into the meat and potatoes of the movie. But for now, I'll just say that this movie had a lot going for it that really appealed to Professor Victor. So why don't we just go ahead and dig into it, start talking about it, and see what I thought. As you know, the movie that we're talking about today is Synchronic. And Synchronic came out in 2019 and is made by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, 2 filmmakers that we've discussed before when we talked about Spring, and we will be talking about them again in the future, but I'm not going to spoil when or where or why or how. But suffice to say, they are excellent filmmakers, and that is part of why I had high expectations coming into this movie. And were those expectations met? Well, let's talk about it. If you haven't seen it before, the movie is about 2 paramedics, one of whom is a family man who's having marital issues, and the other one who's a little bit more of a womanizer party guy who hasn't really been able to settle down. And they come across a series of deaths that are very strange and hard to explain and seem to be linked to this new drug called Synchronic, a synthetic drug that seems to have very strange effects on people, particularly young people. When the one paramedic's daughter goes missing after using this drug, the other paramedic, who's facing a life-threatening illness, decides to explore using the drug in an attempt to find out what happened to her and maybe rescue her. And we'll go ahead and stop there so as to not spoil it for everybody. But Synchronic is a really fascinating, interesting, well-made movie that mostly hits the mark for me. The movie is a really great concept, especially for me, because as many of you who watch the channel know, I love me some time travel type movies, and this is a time travel type movie. It's not spoiling too much to explain that the drug Synchronic has some time travel type attributes to it that drive the story quite a bit, and that's kind of my jam. And in this particular case, it's really cool because it's a different kind of time travel than I've seen in most movies. Most movies, it's time travel either by some sort of magical or unexplained physical thing, or even like a time machine or scientific thing or something like that. I've never seen one that use drugs as the a recreational drug as a method for time traveling, and then tying it specifically to younger people through admittedly junk science. We'll get into that a little bit maybe, but it's really, to me, a fresh and fascinating concept that I ate up with a spoon. I really liked the idea of getting this time travel thrill ride, if you will. I also like that the drug was limited in time and space, something that I think gets missed in many time travel movies, that it matters where you take the drug and how long you have while you're on the drug to explore things. It was a fascinating idea that you have to be in a certain place at a certain time. And I like that. I liked that, if you took the drug on somebody's roof, you might wind up in a tree in the past. That's a cool idea. And it led to some interesting moments in the movie. like I said, the scientific explanation for it is a little bit hokey, and it's part of maybe why there's this subplot about the terminal illness that ties into it to allow an older person to be able to use the drug the way young people do. But I'll give it that. I'll give it a mulligan on that, even though it was a little bit, little corny. I'll give it that because it was the engine to make the movie happen, frankly, and you kind of don't have the movie without it. And so, because I was enjoying the movie, I was willing to give it a pass on that. Another big strength of the movie is the aforementioned Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who are exceptionally gifted filmmakers. I haven't seen everything they've done, as evidenced by my first time watching of Synchronic, but what I have seen of their stuff is really, really good. They have a wonderful eye, and they have a really, I'll almost say languid pacing, but it's not really quite languid. It's just maybe deliberate would be a better word. They take their time telling a story. They are not in a rush to get to the plot points and the plot beats and the climax and, the three act structure type, landmarks. They are going to take their time and let you sit with their characters and get to know them. And I think that's a strength by and large. I think that it's helpful to try to connect with the characters so that when things start happening to them and there are consequences, you feel them as an audience member. You care about the character and you feel what's happening to them, and you didn't give a damn, basically. So I think that's a wise move on their part. And I also think that they also take their time in just setting the scene and the tone of the movie. They are beautiful with a camera. They really make their movies look amazing, and Synchronic is no different from any of the other ones I've seen. It really looks wonderful, and they take the time to stew in that, to let you enjoy that, to let you appreciate that. And it's a good decision because the movies look gorgeous and you are given the opportunity, the time to appreciate that. For relatively young and new filmmakers, they're very confident. They really are confident in telling their stories in a slow pace and letting it unfold at the rate that they want it to unfold. They really understand folding the drama into the horror or the sci-fi or the action or whatever it is that they're doing. They really make sure that the dramatic thread doesn't get lost. And that's, I think, where the best horror lies, is when you actually have that dramatic emotional investment into the movie. And here they've got a pretty solid cast to convey those emotions and to tell that story. They've got Anthony Mackie, the poor man's Will Smith, who's good in this movie and generally an underrated actor overall. I mean, he's pretty popular now with the Marvel movies, but he really is pretty talented. Everything I've seen him in, he's pretty good. And then Jamie Dornan, who, fair warning to the ladies, spanks nobody in this movie at all. But he's perfectly serviceable here. And then they've got Katie Selton playing his wife, who is a favorite of mine and is, in my opinion, a little underused here. And that's maybe where my biggest hiccup with the movie would be, is that while Benson and Moorhead do a good job of giving you the time to get to know the characters and spend time with them and invest in them, I didn't 100% connect with them. And I think it might be because there was more focus on Mackie, who is your main character, and less focus on Dornan and his family, which I think is maybe where there is more strong dramatic work to be done. Katie Selton's a great actress who does a lot of great work, and she's underused here. She doesn't appear on screen as much as she should, and you're told a lot about their relationship through Dornan's character rather than shown it. And that might have been a bit of a mistake, especially since Benson and Moorhead are not afraid to give the time to that relationship. And they instead wanted to focus more on Mackie and his illness, which isn't a bad thing. I can see not wanting to make the movie too long. You wouldn't want to go over 2 hours with it. But I did miss connection with that family. And since that winds up being a big plot point, the family dynamic, it was something that I did notice as being a bit of a maybe a misstep or a missed opportunity, that I would have liked to have seen more Katie Selton, more interaction with the family, a little bit more understanding of the family drama and family dynamics that were there, and how they were breaking down and how that was going to feed into the rest of the story. But that's quibble. Overall, the actors are doing good work and the story is good. I'm happy with what I'm seeing. And then when it gets into the actual drug use time travel stuff, I'm on board. I'm 100% in. If there's another issue I'd have with it, is that I felt like maybe the movie could have gone a little bit farther in exploring this. Like I said, they do spend a lot of time with the family dynamics and the drama, and I'm not sure that all that drama really held me enough to warrant that screen time, when once we get to the time travel stuff, I'm really into it and would have liked to see them do more. You know, at some point the movie wraps up and it's resolved, and I feel like they're just getting started. They're just scratching the surface of this premise because it's a really strong, interesting premise that could have gone in a number of ways, and it doesn't, and it should have. And I would have liked to have seen some other things that they could have done, or just basically, I guess I just wanted more, which is not a bad thing for a movie. If a movie leaves you wanting more, that's generally a good sign for the movie, and it's a good sign for this movie as well. But there are just some missed opportunities, and then there's just my own personal thing, like without spoiling the movie too much. I'm still not too happy about the dog, and if animals are a thing for you, maybe look up doesthedogdie.com and check out this movie, the information about this movie before you watch it. But I'm still not too thrilled about the situation with the dog, and I kind of feel like when Mackie says that there's not enough drugs to save the dog, but he can go and save the girl. I'm thinking he's making the wrong decision because I'd have gone and saved the dog. But that's just me. But I'm kind of getting a little too into plot details. I digress. But yeah, that was actually a big sticking point for me, was that plot point. So the little things that aren't that big a deal, but the fact that they did stand out to me, stick out to me, is maybe showing me that this movie wasn't a slam dunk. As much as I liked it, and I liked it a lot, there were still issues with it that I was able to focus on, and that even after watching it and even after thinking about it after the fact, still bothered me, if you will, still tickled my brain a little bit. So with that, does that mean the movie's going to be syllabus worthy? Well, let's find out. So, is Synchronic syllabus worthy? And the answer is probably, at a very minimum, probably at least an extra credit slot. Because it is a really good movie made really well with a very, very interesting topic. I really think that the time travel stuff, at least to me, feels fresh and interesting, and really scratched my itch. Because I love me a time travel movie. It hits me in the sweet spot, and so this movie really kind of played up to my interest quite a bit. Like I was saying in the intro, knowing that this movie was recommended during the Mind Games video gave me an idea that it might have some time travel aspects to it, and that is something I like. And then knowing that it's Benson and Moorhead really got me excited for the movie, and I did not feel disappointed from it. I had some high expectations going into it, and I felt like it mostly met them. Like I said, I have some nits to pick, but I do think that overall satisfied enough so to maybe make the syllabus. I would at least give it some thought depending on where it was going to go. I could potentially put this in the time travel subgenre, horror drama, as Benson and Moorhead are known for their drama. Maybe dysfunctional family. Like I said, if the movie had really kind of focused more on that dysfunctional family, like I think it should have, that really would be a great place to put this movie on the syllabus, because that story, like I said, didn't get enough attention, but it really was a compelling part of the movie that I feel like should have gotten more attention. So there are some options of where to stick this movie on the syllabus. So I think it might have squeaked its way on there. At least it deserves to, because while it's not as good as some of the other Benson and Moorhead work that we've talked about and that we will talk about, I wouldn't put this, in the top of their movies. It's still really, really good. It's still better than a lot of the schlock horror that you'll see out there. These guys kind of feel a little bit auteur to me. They feel a little bit, like artistic. Like they have a style. They have uh, uh, a signature to their films. And I'm very excited to keep tabs on them, because so far everything I've seen has been really, really satisfying, really, really good, really just kind of hitting for me. So it's exciting when I find a filmmaker, or filmmakers in this case, that I really like, because that makes me look forward to what they're going to do next. And the fact that they're really just kind of starting out their career, they've only been around for the last, 10 years or so, is really, maybe less than that actually. It's really exciting for me, because that means they've probably got a lot more output in them, a lot more to their prime for us to discover and enjoy. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next. And I'm looking forward to seeing whatever other recommendations you guys have for me, because so far they've been really, really solid, really, really good. Not all of them make the syllabus. This one probably does, but they've all been enjoyable. I haven't had a real true clunker yet, knock on wood. But so far the recommendations have been good to great. So really keep them coming. And now we come to the part of the video where I answer a horror trivia pursuit question, live on camera without cuts, so you know if I answered it truthfully or not. And I'm going to look at the psychological category on the card, because Synchronic, kind of a psychological horror movie, sci-fi, psychological horror drama. Yeah. So today's question is, at the end of 2016's Don't Breathe, is the villainous blind man dead? Not the most difficult of questions if you're familiar with this movie or this movie series. And frankly, that kind of is a bit of a hint right there when I say that. This is I know the answer to this question, and if you don't, I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it. Although really, it's kind of a yes or no question. If it's 50-50 chance of getting it right. But I do know this movie. I did really enjoy the first Don't Breathe. I thought it was a lot of fun, even though it's got some questionable turns in there that are uncomfortable to say the least. And if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. I do think it's worth checking out for sure. The fact that there's a second one in and of itself is a bit of an issue. Um, again, without trying to, give you to it, give you away an answer to the question. The fact that there's a second movie and that it's problematic. All of this put together should really be a big old clue for you if you had no idea of which way to answer this question. So I'm not going to prattle on too long about it because again, it's a 50-50 shot. It's a yes or no answer. So it is the villainous blind man dead. Got your answer locked in? Because the answer is no, he is not dead because he lives on for the sequel, which is controversial in and of itself. But we'll just double check the card. And the answer, of course, is no, he is not dead. Yeah, that was the problem, right? Like, he is the villain in this first movie, and then they follow him instead of the protagonist in the second movie, which is questionable, and we won't get into too much because I don't want to spoil the movies or anything like that, but, whether or not following him as the main character in the second movie is a good idea is at best debatable, at best. So, yeah, controversial, questionable movie. Somewhat of a softball question, but that's okay because sometimes I need a softball because some of these answers have really stumped me and got me. So I'm glad to be able to answer one fairly easily. Did you get it right, or did you say that he was dead? If you said that he was something other than alive or dead, please explain in the comments below because I gotta know. I gotta know how you figured that one out. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. By all means, leave some suggestions for more movies in the comments below so I can add them to the to-watch list. Maybe I'll make a video about them. No guarantees, of course, but I am enjoying sharing my experience with you guys about what I think of these movies. It's been a lot of fun. Seems like you guys are enjoying it too, so that's good news. We'll keep doing these along with other horror movie syllabus videos. And until we get to another one of those next week, class dismissed.